my friends, and welcome back to my channel, Minimum Player Count. I am Stephanie, and today we are taking a look at the prototype copy of Bantam West. This is a game that is coming to Kickstarter soon, so be on the lookout. And without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so first I want to say this is a prototype copy that I was given, so be aware that some of the components are going to be subject to change. I do want to also say that this is a big game, so this video may be a little, I don't want to say sloppy, I want to say that it's going to be me reading off some of the cards because there's a lot of information in this game and I want to make sure I'm saying everything correctly. This is an open sandbox game for 2 to 4 players. It has variable player powers. Everybody will have a special action that they can do that is different from the other players, and they also have different kinds of tasks that they're trying to complete. Now, there is something called a to-do list that every player will get. Now, there is a to-do list that is the same for everybody, but I do know that they have come out with a to-do list that is different and variable, so everybody's trying to complete different tasks. Now, in your first game, you will have a warm welcome. In that warm welcome, you'll be required to complete 4 different to-do list tasks to complete the game. This is just to give you an understanding of a very basic way of how to play. Now, I'm going to be going over briefly on different characters, different spots or locations that you can go, and really what you're going to be doing in this game. You will be moving around, and on your turn you can move up to 3 spaces, and those spaces are going to be shown on by circles, and those circles have different colors. Now, the colors are supposed to be showing line of sight. That is important in case you are either evading from a fight or trying to fight somebody from far away, and you are using that line of sight to see if you are in that same area as them. Very clever for this to show that kind of thinking and ingenuity of that line of sight, so you can actually evade or know where your opponent is at and if you can actually hit them. Now, you can also do PvP or PvE, that is up to you. I prefer PvE, but as this is a Western game, there's going to be a lot of PvP. This is a game where you're going to be really going against each other, and you kind of have to, because if you're going to play it nicely, you're probably going to get run over in the Wild West. Actions that you can do on your turn. This action card is very helpful, and as you can see, there's a lot of words on here. On the opposite side, this is the combat, which I'll go over briefly for you in a minute. So on your turn, you're going to be having grit. Grit is really your currency of how you're going to be doing some actions. For moving, you're going to have to spend a grit. On your subsequent turn, your grit will refresh so that you can then use grit again on your turn. So you can move, which is movement. Endeavor is collecting resources. Now, there are some Endeavor cards that you're going to be getting on your board, and you can really capitalize to increase your skill, and that is very helpful if you're really trying to create resources to gain money. Different spots on the board will show you different resources that you can get when you endeavor to collect them. You are going to be having to do different types of roles as well in this game to show either for combat if you're successful or not. When you're endeavoring, sometimes just depends on what you're specifically doing. Reflection is to restore 1 willpower, and willpower is used to manipulate your dice rolls, which is again very important when you're going to be doing a lot of these actions. You can discard resources on your turn. You do have a limited amount of capacity that you can carry. On your board, you'll be showing there's a cargo space that shows resources and different things that you can put on your board, so you can also discard some of those resources so that you can have more space. You can buy or sell at certain stores, which again I will be covering the different types of stores that we have available for this prototype. On your turn, you would spend a grit in some locations, or in other locations it will say you don't have to spend any grit, which is very helpful. You can use an item with spending grit, or if that's for non-combat, or you can spend up to 1 grit for a combat item, but that is limited to 1. You can also build a cabin. There are 3 types of cabins in this game. Different types of cabins are going to prove to be either more helpful in certain types of environments where you can actually refresh and kind of heal up a little bit, where you can store more of your goods, and it's a little bit more of a shelter for you. But with cabins, depending on the type that you make, they can make it more easily to break into or for other people to burn down. You can collect resources from a cabin. Again, while some people will build cabins to put some of the resources in there, you can collect those resources from the cabins if you successfully break in. You can fight. Again, like I said, this is a PvP and PvE type of game. With fighting, the combat is a little bit different that I will briefly cover right now. Everyone will have their own cards for fighting and combat. When you are in a combat range, what you will be doing is you will be selecting 4 cards. You will look at your cards and decide which ones to play. Again, on the back of this card here, it shows all the different symbols that you will encounter on your combat cards to make it easier. Some of them are going to be blocking, some of them are going to be fighting in actual combat, or some of them, well, all of them have a little movement that you can also do while you're in combat. So you can brawl, block, tackle, melee, gun, or explosion. Those are the different types of attack items that you can use, and depending on the cards you draw will really decide on what you're going to be doing. So fighting is going to be different when you're doing PvP versus PvE. When somebody is PvE, they're going to be selecting out of a stack of cards, mainly from the animal section, look at the card and say, okay, that's the card that they're playing. They don't really get to decide because it's not them playing. When you're PvP, everyone pulls 4, looks at the cards, they play them, and that's when you start losing health or deciding on what you're going to be doing next. You can also try to leave or evade fights, different types of actions like that. I've had to do that on one of my turns because I was about to die and I didn't want to lose all my stuff. So I left and fled the fight. With my specific character, I had a card that allowed me to push them away. So I was within a 1 space from them, and then I fled. So once I left that line of sight, combat was over, so that was really helpful. You can also burn, breach, or loot. Again, these are different actions that are available on your turn depending on where you are and what you're specifically trying to do. You can recruit riders, you can mount heads, you can bank deposit, or you can heist. A lot of these are going to be shown in the manual for the advanced rules. The easy rules are going to go briefly over specific actions that you can do, but the advance is really when you start getting into the lore of Bantam West. Now, there is something called recruit riders, and that is actually in one of the shops that I wanted to show you. This Bee Havens here, you can go to Miss Bee Havens to recruit a rider for either 4 hide or $5. When you recruit a rider, that rider will then go on your board and you will get a special action or thing that they have that was helpful. So with riders, you'll be getting either like storage or skills or something to help with bargaining when you're going to be selling. That is very important because money is a limited resource, again, in the Wild West. So we also have Catman Gunsmith & Co. This is where you're going to be getting your guns, your ammo, and your tools. Tools are going to be used for you want to burn something down or you want to break into someplace. This is going to be very important if you're trying to complete one of those I want to say bad kind of skills, but this is where you're going to be getting all those goods. Rita's Outpost. Rita buys heads. She also buys different kinds of resources here. And as you can see, wood, herbs, hides, and silver will sell for less more than what she buys because obviously this is going to be, she wants to make a profit off of here. So you can actually make money off of those resources that you get. Next one is the graveyard. So if somebody dies, one of your riders, you can bury them to mourn your dead and you'll be getting a token, and that token will give you some kind of extra thing that you'll be getting during this game. So the graveyard is again for advanced play. And then we have Mirth's Mount. Mirth's Mount is probably what you thought of. I can get a horse here. And depending on the side or the level of game that you're playing with, you can also get saddles. Saddles are going to be better for the mounts because you'll be able to move further because obviously it's more comfortable to be riding that horse. So now that we've covered a little bit of what you can actually do, different shops and stuff that you can go to, let's cover some of the characters that you'll be having in this game. Now, I'm not going to go over the specific characters because I don't know if those will change or they'll stay the same. I'm going to mainly be covering their player boards here and kind of what you'll be looking at when you're going to be playing. Now, everybody has their own different player board and they all have different backgrounds, so that is super cool. But right here up at the top is where you're going to see the journeyman to master. This is where you're going to be having those skill cards to be getting those resources and different ways to master them. It's showing on the board here. When you recruit riders, you can place them on here for their skills, storage, or bargain. Cabins, different kinds of cabins will gain you different kinds of notoriety. Grit, this is where you'll be spending your grit to fatigue it here. Your character card will be placed here. If you gain a mount or a horse, that will be placed here. And then this will change depending on the characters that you have. So you have agility, strength, malice, sneak, and will. So this is obviously just depending on the character that you have. This is your vitality right here. This is where you're going to be able to see how much life you have. And this is your speed. Right here is going to be your inventory and your cash. And then this right here is your specific skill that your person can do. So the thief here is a pickpocket. So that gives them a little bit more advantage if they're trying to, you know, steal some resources from other players. This one is the merchant. So the merchant is better at bargaining. And as you can see on the board, this has got a bunch of cash, money, stuff like that. So they're really good at negotiating. Right here, the arsonist, which was who I was playing, what they can do is they can bar the door, meaning if somebody's inside their cabin, they can bar the door so that they can burn it down. It's a little evil, but I like it. So, again, very cool. I love all the different kinds of arson stuff that they have on here, little burnt marks. And then you have the gunslinger. Gunslinger's got a bunch of ammo all over the place, and what they can do is they can set a trap. Each has one different little ability that they can do, but as well as that, you're gonna have also little cards that go with these specific characters that are gonna be specific to who you're playing, and those can give you other tasks or things that you're trying to complete while you are playing with these characters. A couple other things that I want to say is this does have multiple different boards that you'll be using to play with, and those have different seasons or weather on there. Some of them are going to be better for collecting specific resources, and some of them, if you actually stay there, as in you stop your movement, you can actually do yourself some harm because you're out in the worst weather, as in like winter with snow. And sometimes you can be in a better environment, which can actually help you gain some more health back. Also, another thing to note is while you're moving, there are event cards. If you've played Gloomhaven before, anytime you move, there is an event that you will draw and then you have to make a decision. It's kind of the same thing. In this case of you moving, you will draw an event card, and that can affect not only you, but the entire table. Sometimes these events can be good or sometimes it can be bad. So just depending on what you draw, but there is a huge stack of them that can really impact your game. On a final note, there are 4 different kinds of setup that you can do for playing. Now that will change the kind of shops that you have and also the amount of notoriety that you will be needing to finish the game. The 5th and final type of setup is going to be a brawl type of setup where you are fighting to gain the most kills, whether that be PvP or PvE. So if you are that type of person who just wants to kind of go all out, that might be the kind of setup that you want to do. Now that I've covered Bantam West, let me give you some of my thoughts of what I liked about this game and what I think could be improved on. Again, I don't really have a lot to say with the improvements because anytime I've given a little bit of commentary back to them, they've taken that and really changed some of the stuff, so I don't really have a lot of negative to say, but let's talk about it. Whew, alrighty, so if you made it all the way to my thoughts of Bantam West, again, open sandbox game where PvP and PvE. I enjoy PvE, not so much PvP, but with the fact that there is a lot of variable, different kinds of player movements, actions that you can do, and also try to ways to protect yourself by getting more weapons or by just staying away from everybody because, you know, that might be the best way if you don't want to fight. A lot of this is task-based where you're trying to complete certain things to gain that notoriety, but man, there's just a lot to do. This is a very big game. It's a table hog for sure. I would say if you don't have a big table, that might be a kind of downside for you, because they made the boards to be so big so that you can see kind of what the resources are, that you can see what the environment is. They really want you to feel that immersive feeling. So it is, again, a table hog, which if you don't like that, that might be a big downside for you. But it really does give you that immersive feeling. The artwork on this game, amazing, amazing, amazing artwork. The first time I saw this, I was just drawn in automatically by that artwork because it was just beautiful. I would say that there is just so much to really do and talk about that honestly I don't see a lot of downside for this unless you don't want to play a lengthy game. But if you don't want to play a lengthy game, you wouldn't pull this out, right? This is for those people who like to just explore and really see what they can do with this world, because it does change depending on what events you draw, who you're playing with, and different tasks that you can do. It is such a cool experience, and honestly, I am so excited for the final product of this game. You don't want to sleep on this, because if you are a person who likes like a Western Legends type of thing, check this out, because this is something that is really just ingenious. I love the way that they have these different tasks of notoriety that you're doing, different ways to collect resources, and the shops themselves. Like, the shops all have different things that they're offering, and they can show that they even thought of names for each of the shop owners themselves. It is just a genius, really smart game. I want to see the different changes that comes out with the Kickstarter. I haven't even seen the Kickstarter page yet, but I'm super excited to see what's going to come with that, if there's going to be any stretch goals or not, or what really they're going to do, because I do know with the prototype, there was a lot in here, but I'm kind of hoping that maybe there'll be a little bit better kind of organization and a little bit easier way to categorize each of the players. One thing I did tell them was I think that each of the players should either have like a sheet or like their own rule book, because it's kind of hard knowing what each person's supposed to be doing, but I believe they're taking that and going to be making that, so really not a downside. But if you have any questions, if you think of anything that you're like, I want to know a little bit more about this, or maybe this is a little bit something you're not sure of, just make sure to leave something in the comments and I'll try to get back to you on that, or maybe one of the people from Bantam West will. Let me know. Again, I want to thank you all so much for watching this preview video of Bantam West, and I really wanted to thank them for sending me this prototype game. I've played it a couple times already, and I might play it just a little bit more because I really want to see what else I can do. But it's just so much fun, and it's really just immersive. But again, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.